How's everybody today? Good. Well, just to wrap up the Tennessee game, I think most of what I've said before probably sums it up pretty well. It was a little bit of a survival game for us. I think our players were mentally and physically tired. We didn't play with a lot of juice in the game, but we showed great grit and determination and competitive spirit, to come back and win the game, and made a lot of really good plays in the last 5.5 minutes of the game. Great drive on offense, and, defense getting them stopped in 2 minutes. So, the players, certainly showed that they, wanted to come in first, and it was important for them to win, and they did the things in the end that they had to do that. But there's a big difference between wanting to be first and really wanting to be the best that you can be. And the focus for us this week, and to get the kind of consistency and performance that we'd like to have, is, we want more players to be playing their best. And, I guess the analogy would be, if you can run, 10 900 meters, and the guy you're running against runs 11.5 and you just run 11.4, well, you wanted to be first, but you're not really being your best. So there's too much inconsistency when you don't play at a high level all the time. Too many negative plays, penalties, which are lack of focus and discipline type things. Had some mental errors on defense, had some turnover opportunities that we didn't get, had more missed tackles than normal. So most of the problems that, are created by ourselves, it's like friendly fire in the military. So no one's really satisfied, where we are. Everybody's working hard to try to get better, and I was pleased with the attitude and the effort that we had today in practice to try to make improvement. I think everybody is motivated by either fear of failure, incentive, what do I get out of this, or I just want to be the best. But the really good players usually have a lot of talent, but they have that burning desire to want to be the best. And we just need to get more guys playing at a higher level, and that's our responsibility as coaches. And if we didn't have the juice in the game that we need, that's my responsibility too. So focus right now is to try to get our players to improve, to rest, and that rest doesn't come just from not practicing. It comes from how you take care of yourself, how much sleep you get, how you eat, how you hydrate, how you get treatment if you're injured so you can get healthy. So there's a lot of things that, we need to be focusing on to get ready for the next challenge, when that time comes. Guys that, Eddie practiced a little bit today, but, we think he'll get better every day and probably be back in a day or two. Ronnie Harrison is going to be in a boot for a couple days, but we think by the end of the week he'll be okay. Dominic Jackson, same injury that Cam had last year against Tennessee, had the same procedure done on it. Cam played against LSU. I don't know if Dominic will be able to play or not. So, we'll just, that's going to be day by day, probably after about a week's rest, to see how he responds. But I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, just through 8 games, how would you assess the offense, and more specifically how the passing game has come along, considering all the new pieces?
Well, I see improvement. I think we've had to overcome a lot of adversity and obstacles, in the passing game. Losing Reuben Foster early on, who was, a very, very good player for us, certainly affected our depth. Calvin Ridley, sort of got thrown in maybe a little before he was ready, and he responded really well. Or Darius Stewart probably had his best game the last game in terms of his production and his performance. So Jake has made steady improvement. We're not totally satisfied with the consistency in the passing game in terms of the whole ball of wax, in terms of protection, too much pressure on the quarterback, too many sacks, timing in the passing game. We were better on third down, in this last game, but that's been a bone of contention for us. More consistency in the red zone, scoring touchdowns, all those things are, sort of, we do quality control when we have a bye week. What do we want to improve on defense, offense, special teams, and then we go to work on it, and we do the same thing with every individual player. This is what you need to work on, and so that we have a chance to get better. So, I think we're making improvement. We're making progress. Are we where we'd like to be? I still think there's room to grow.
Nick, I know you mentioned the quality control just now, but what is the schedule for the bye week aside from just practice today, practice the next 2 days? And just in your time as a coach, how is your approach to the bye week evolve, change, or has it always been really the same?
We used to practice more, and but I don't think, you get a lot of quality, practice time if you practice more than this. I think the rest is probably more important. Mentally as well as physically. Our guys have not had an opportunity to, go home for a weekend or anything since we started fall camp, at the beginning of August. So when you give them Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they have a chance to do that, maybe go back and watch their high school games or whatever. So I think at this point in the season, less is more, in some ways. In terms of overall trying to get rest, recovery, healed up. And 3 practices are really, what we have in a normal course of a week. We usually just walk through on Friday, and then we play the game on Saturday. So basically they're missing the walkthrough and the Saturday. So, but we'll practice tomorrow and Thursday and Monday.
I don't know if you've gotten this far in your quality control yet, but you guys have uncharacteristically allowed a lot of tackles for loss. You have your finger on that, why that might be, and how will you address that this week?
Well, most of it is what I talked about before, mental errors, lack of communication, not blocking the right people. It's more what we're doing incorrectly than it is that the other team's doing something that we can't handle. And those are the things I talked about. Too many negative plays, too many penalties. And most of it we're creating through lack of execution and inconsistency. So we need to do a better job. Need to do a better job of that. And some of it's fundamentals. When you don't take the right footwork, you don't get your second step on the ground, you're not in the right position to block a guy. All those things enhance the chances of it not working out very well.
I know you've been supportive of assistants kind of pursuing better opportunities in the future and stuff like that, but just from a big picture standpoint, how do you kind of handle when you have assistants' names being thrown out there as potential candidates for other jobs in the middle of a season?
Right. Well, first of all, I think that every guy that works here does a good job because he's motivated to try to get the next opportunity. So, I don't see, and if I did see that affected a guy's focus, on doing his job here. I went through this at the Cleveland Browns. I think, the quality and character that we have and the coaches that we have here really do put the team first, care about the players, and I don't think that they would sacrifice doing a good job for their players or the program in terms of the pride they have in their performance because they were more focused on something else. But I went through this when I went to Michigan State. We had four games left maybe at the Cleveland Browns, and I took the job, and I totally focused on what we had to do, and we had the best defense in the NFL, and we won a playoff game, and then we lost in the second round. But Jim McElwain, when he went to Colorado State, he came back and coached the national championship game, and we won, and I never questioned his focus or loyalty in terms of what his job was and what he was doing. So I'm happy for our coaches to be recognized, to have opportunities, and I think when the time comes, I'll do everything I can to help them, and I think they all know that. But at the same time, their job and their responsibility right now is to stay focused on, our team and what we're doing. And I think they all understand that. And, how we finish will probably, affect a little bit how their opportunities get enhanced.
With all the hype and everything surrounding that 2011 game, the game of the century it was called, was there any distractions? Did you sense anything, distractions, and did you learn anything from that for moving forward with how to handle games like that?
Well, that's not the only game that we've had like that. I mean, we've had quite a few games like that. What we try to do is, to get the players to keep the main thing, all right, which is how you play in the game. That's the most important thing, not the hype surrounding the game. It's your preparation, how you practice, how you prepare for the game, how you focus when the time comes on having the discipline to do your job well so that your team has the best chance to be successful. And, that's what we want, our players to do. Now, can they all do it? Does it have some effect on them sometimes? I can't tell you that it doesn't, but you're asking me what we do. That's what we try to do, and that's what we've always tried to do.
How much has it impacted, benefited the defense as a whole to have so many guys who have been able to rush the passer, affect the quarterback? And is that individuals developing just from last year or what?
Well, some of the players it's a combination of things. We got a nice combination of guys there. We've got some guys that have experience. We have some guys that have ability that were young players that, we can type into a role that they've been effective in, whether it's, Tim Williams, Rashawn Evans, Ryan Anderson. And, it's helpful that we're able to play more guys and stay fresh and have fresh guys in there on third down. I mean, we've even had the luxury at times of taking Reggie out on third down, all right, if he's tired in the game. So, we've had some good teams around here before, or good defensive teams, and we haven't been able to do that. And I think, that's important. And it's been very helpful this year in terms of the kind of pass rush that we get and how we've been able to affect the quarterback and have not had to pressure nearly as much as what we've done in the past.
You mentioned motivation in your opening statement. Is there any difference in your mind between a guy being internally motivated and externally motivated, or is it just kind of whatever works for an individual player?
Well, if you're internally motivated, I think that means you have a burning desire to accomplish something. You have a goal that's important to you. You're going to go try to be the best you can. If you're externally motivated, that means you're sort of doing it for what you get for it, which is incentive. So that means if it's not important or it's not a big game or you're not going to get a lot out of it or you're not going to get your picture in the paper, that means you're not going to play good. I think I'd rather have the guy that it's really important to him and he's got a burning desire to want to do it, to be the best there is, and not be affected by external factors, because when the external factors are not there, what's the motivation? So how can you trust a guy? How can you count on him? Or do we have to create a Halloween-type atmosphere to try to get the guy to be externally affected so he'll play good?
Right here with CW. Start with CW2 more. Mark.
Reuben Foster had a good game on Saturday. What have you seen? How have you seen him grow up this season and in recent weeks?
Well, Reuben has played, well for us and has showed a lot of maturity and consistency in his play. And he and Reggie both had really good games in the last game, and both of them had a lot of production. And I think he's got a better understanding of, what he's supposed to do, and he's got a lot more confidence in doing it. And so far he's not had some of the issues that he's had in the past in terms of injuries and things that he couldn't get on the field in practice. So it's done really well, and he's been an important part of what we do, especially when we play nickel.
Okay, last one here with Mark.
with Dominic being out, who are some of the guys filling in at right tackle so far?
Well, Brandon Green is the backup right tackle, so he would play right tackle. Persbacher could play right tackle or left tackle if we needed him to. Corwin Curvin is also a backup tackle. So I would say it would have to come from, that group of guys, but Brandon Green is, a guy that we have a lot of confidence in that has been the backup at that position all year. If that were the case, he may not be able to play as much at tight end.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Any plans for your birthday?
Excuse me? I don't have one. And my plans are whatever Miss Terry says.